Hello guys, Judgement here. It's been a while. I hope you're having a good time and that you had some luck in PWL with your loots and parses. But anyway, AQ is coming out soon, so I thought I'd make an update video and let you know my thoughts on the future. Phase 4 is finally coming to a close and we will hopefully venture into AQ in just a few short weeks. It's been a wild ride for me the last couple of months since I was forced to find a new guild and I was afraid I wouldn't find any decent one that would take me, but luckily I found a new home with some old friends. I also had a bad period where I wasn't getting any good results at all, and I almost gave up playing Spelladin. But I hang in there, and during the last couple of months or so I managed to bounce back and get some good results, which put me on the right track again. Even though Spelladin performance has been worse than AP overall in BWL, I still managed to make it to a decent position at like top 50 or something on the All-Stars rankings. And that even though I didn't get any rankings like the last 2 weeks or something because I died quite early in the raid, but I'm still happy. So with that I can say with good conscience that Spelladin is still viable as long as you try hard enough. I have also been reviewing my logs more in depth recently and found something that is very troubling. This has also been one reason why Spelladin DPS is worse than what we have predicted. This didn't show up in the Warcraft log site before, which is why I haven't talked about it or found it earlier. And of course we are talking about resistances on bosses, which leads to partial resists on holy spells. The biggest problem with resistances is that there is no official resource on the resistances of bosses, so we have no idea how high they are. On the other hand, there also isn't supposed to be any holy resistance in the game, as it doesn't exist as a stat, which makes this problem even more problematic. All bosses have a natural resistance bonus against us since they are categorized as a boss, which is level 63. This gives them 15 resistances to all magic. Anyhow, as you can see in this log from one of my boss skills, there are partial resists on consecration and seal of righteousness all over the place, which hurts the DPS kinda bad. The partial resist can be 25, 50 or 75% of the total damage, or it can be 100% and then it's a complete resist. My point with this being that the resistances is hurting Spelladin DPS by quite a lot, and as of right now I don't think there's anything we can do about it. It seems like the resistance problem is much worse in BWL than MC, so we can assume that the dragons have a lot higher resistances than bosses in Molten Core. And we can only hope that the bosses in Anchorage does not have these resistances. Starting off with the first boss in Anchorage is the Prophet Scaram. This is not going to be a super good boss for Spelladins, as we need to swap targets a lot and run around to kill the copies. I expect this to be too much of a hurdle for Spelladin to do decent, so we should just use our normal hybrid set for this instead and skip the MCP. For the second boss, the Bug Trio, this boss should be okay, but it will depend on how fast you are able to kill the bugs. If you are able to kill the bugs in 30 seconds, then you can use one MCP charge on each bug, and that would be perfect. But I think that at least in the beginning, when you don't have like good gear for phase 5, they're gonna take more than 30 seconds to kill, and then MCP is gonna be mediocre at best on this fight. So we'll see how that goes. The third boss is Battleguard Sartura. This should be an okay boss, since it's basically tank and spank. As long as your warriors can keep aggro and taunt good when he drops aggro, it should be fine. You can also stun this boss and the adds, so that will help a bit. Hopefully you will also be able to cleave the adds with consecration, which will help Spelladin DPS a lot on this fight. The fourth boss is Vanquish the Unyielding, should also not be much of a problem. Just tank and spank and yeah, should be a good Spelladin boss. Then we come to Vicious, which is a special boss fight that doesn't really require any DPS to kill. Yeah, here you need to use your frost weapon to freeze him, and then you need to kill the adds. So I'm not sure if they're just gonna count DPS as normal on this boss. But if they do, then yeah, I think Spelladin's they're gonna have an edge on other, because the only time that you're actually doing DPS is killing the adds, so your consecration is gonna do more than other red paladins. So just pop your Sandalar trinket, use consecration, and use a sapper charge and everything. So yeah, should be good. And then we come to the next special boss, which is Princess Huhuran, which you most likely are gonna need a lot of nature resistance on. And this will be complicated because, well, basically Spelladin really needs the high spell power to work, and if you're gonna replace all your items with bad nature systems items, then yeah, your performance is not gonna be very good, I think. So yeah, this will depend on how much nature resistance you need and how fast you can kill the boss. If you can just kill the boss without nature resistance, then yes, Paladin will do fine. Maybe you can just bubble in the end to save yourself or something like that. But yeah, we will see. And then we come to the Twin Emperors. This is gonna be one of the worst fights for Red Paladins in the raid because of how it works. So one of the Emperors is immune to physical and the other is immune to magic. So Spelladin is basically really bad for this fight. And well, basically normal ret is also kind of bad, but at least they do some more damage. So yeah, this is gonna be a bad fight overall. No, don't expect any big numbers on this fight. And then we have Uru. Shouldn't be any problems either on this fight. So just basically tank and spank and hope that you can kill him fast enough so that he doesn't submerge, and it should be fine. And the last boss, Cthulhu, is also most likely not gonna be a very good fight. But I wouldn't count Spelladin out completely here. You can start with a normal weapon in phase 1 and just poke the tentacles, and when you know phase 2 is coming soon, you can swap to your MCP and go all out on the boss. And it will depend on how they count the DPS on this fight, if they count all the adds or if they only count the phase 2 nuke. Because we have seen that they have changed a lot of how DPS works on Warcraft logs like Nefarian fight and stuff like that. So we'll see how they count the DPS on this fight. So it will depend entirely on that. So for phase 5 I have added all the biz lists on my website judgementred.com. So if you're interested in looking what items you should be trying to acquire from AQ, you can take a look there. And you will find a link to it down in the description. And I can also recommend the Red Paladin Biz spreadsheet made by Baranor. It will also be linked in the description. It contains more of an overview of different items and a comparison. You can use the spreadsheet to sim your potential DPS. Unfortunately, it doesn't have Spelladin in the spreadsheet, so you can only use it for AP and hybrid variations. The core of itemization in phase 5 will be the new Avenger set for all Retribution Paladin builds. This has a big chunk of stats as well as a decent amount of spell power on all items, with the addition of 71 spell power set bonus for wearing the whole set. This is on par with tier 2 spell damage wise, and on top of that we get a lot of crit and some more AP. The extra crit will hopefully allow us to drop fire gauntlets or storm gauntlets for our vengeance uptime will be high enough without it. You should prioritize to getting the full Avenger set before anything else if you're playing a Spelladin. Since you only want the full set, the pieces by themselves are worse than what you are currently wearing if you're anywhere close to phase 4 biz. For off pieces we got a lot of new stuff as well, but many of the items are only small upgrades from phase 4. So if you're good geared already, they won't be much of an upgrade. The two most important items to get except from the Avenger set is Ring of the Fallen God and Dark Storm Gauntlets. These are both drops from Cthulhu and also biz for all other casters, so they may not be easy to acquire. We also have some Dark Horse items that could potentially be very good, but we need to try them out before we can say for certain if they are. First off is Wrath of Scenarios. This ring you get from a quest in Silithus at Exalted Reputation with the Cenarian Circle. This ring could be very powerful and even biz until the end of Classic. But the problem is that most of our spells are not counted as direct damage spells, so they are most likely not gonna proc it. But if they are, it will be very good. So in the off chance that Seal of Righteousness or Consecration ticks will proc the ring, then we have a new biz ring that is easy to acquire, which will be really good. But don't count on it. Second off is Kalimdor's Revenge. This badass two-handed sword has a very interesting proc. There isn't a lot of documented data regarding this proc, so we're not unsure how often it procs or if it has any kind of scaling with spell power. But reading some comments on WoWhead and stuff like that, the rumors say that it has a really good proc rate. So it could make a really awesome non-Spelladin weapon when you're not using manual crowd pummeler. And yeah, it could also be a very good alternative to Hand of Rag or Rush Candy if you don't have those for a hybrid build. And then we have 2 items that have spell penetration on them that could be very helpful for us in case we get into the situation that it will help with all the partial resist that I was talking about earlier. And these items are Eye of Moam and Ring of Swarming Thought. There are also a couple of other items with spell penetration, but those are not really worth getting. So these are the 2 that you should try to get a hold of if you can. But I am not very hopeful that this is gonna work either, because if you look at the spell penetration tooltip on WoWhead, it actually says that it's reducing the resistances of Arcane, Fire, Frost, Nature and Shadow, and not Holy, because, you know, Holy resistances doesn't exist, so yeah, that's about that. Thanks, Blizzard. But it's still worth a try, so I will try to get one of those as soon as possible and make an update video after I've done some extensive tests if they work or not. We are also getting some Librams in Phase 5. For Red Paladins there are 2 Librams that are worth getting. Libram of Fervor and Libram of Hope. Fervor is stated to be a Phase 6 drop, but according to WoWhead recent post here, they say it should come out in Phase 5. This will be a nice DPS upgrade for Spelladins with the extra holy damage, so I really hope we don't have to wait until Phase 6 to get this one. And yeah, this is a BOE world drop, so this you're gonna have to look out on the auction house to get this, and it's probably gonna be very expensive the first couple of weeks or months depending on the drop rate. So yeah, you should try to save up some gold now and keep spamming the auction house to look for this and get it as soon as possible. And Libram of Hope is just going to reduce the mana of your seal spells by 20, so it's going to help a tiny bit with your mana issues, but it's not a big deal really. AQ is going to be fun with a lot of new content and tons of new loot. All red specs will get a nice damage boost, so the question is, how easy is actually AQ40 going to be for decent guilds, and what kind of shenanigans can we get away with in order to get high parses? Overall, I'm hopeful in the Spelladin comeback. Keep fighting the good fight and I will see you again later. See you guys. Judgement out.